On the House of Lords changes, well, on the House of Lords changes, I hope that's going to go quiet a bit. But there are two things. One is kicking out the hereditary peers, which they've known about for a long time. Incidentally, I'm not an hereditary peer, appointed peer in 1990. I'm Margaret Thatcher's last working peer, really, I think, in 1990. And I think on the Lords, it may all just go away, but I think it's a great mistake to throw out the hereditary peers, who are very, very valuable. Freddie Howe, Simon Glenarthur, and others. And these are people who aren't trying to climb the greasy pole in any way. They're there purely for service, and they make a very, very good and measured contribution to its deliberations. And I think it's just pure socialist, vindictive little jealousy to kick them out. That's what I think. I'd keep them. I don't know. But I say I'm actually not one.
I know. Yeah.
I'm a jumped up parvenu. Well, I'll go on, repeating really what I've said. I think the main thing is, if we're looking at Islam, which I think radical Islam is the greatest threat facing Western civilization today. I think it's all over the planet. Islamism is like communism. It's a world domination movement, and they believe in it. It's a much younger religion than ours. They've got, a lot of energy, and I think we ought to recognize that. And the first thing is we must get rid of the Islamophobia word, because it isn't phobic to fear the modern world's most violent religious ideology, which is what Islam is. You've only got to look at the planet. And Islamism, radical Islam. And, I do try to make the distinction between radical Islam, Islamism, and the milder Islam, really. The same, but, as I say, the duty of Muslims, the Muslims, should obey the Quran, number one. Number two, they should emulate the life of Muhammad when he lived here in the 7th century. And that's pretty unfortunate, because the Quran has, I think, 104 verses which instruct Muslims to kill or subdue non-Muslims, and kill or subdue and put them into inferior status in society and fine them. And the second sort of essence of Quran is that Muhammad ordered the death of 600 Jews in one afternoon in 627, the Battle of the Ditch. And he was a warlord. He made his living by raiding trading parties and that sort of thing. So I think Islamophobia is a silly word, because it can't be phobic to fear the world's most violent religious ideology, which is what it is today. And so Islam is not a religion of peace. It's as simple as that. And I think the great thing is we've got to be allowed to talk about it. Me being allowed to say this in public is quite rare. I've said it in the Lords, of course, and I'll go on saying it because, I think Western civilization has to stand up to this thing. It's got to at least talk about it and recognize what it is. And to that end, what the government should do is to, first of all, monitor our mosques and madrasas, which are the schools which attach to each mosque. And there are 1,850 mosques, roughly, each one of which has a school. And of course, the interesting thing about the schools, the Muslim schools, the madrasas, is that they only teach for 16 hours, I think it is, a week. So they avoid, and they're attached to the mosque, and they avoid inspection by Ofsted. So we haven't a clue what's going on in the 1850 mosques and madrasas. So we should first of all monitor that, and then we should monitor our imams and so on in their services and so on, and we should imprison or deport our radical imams. Simple as that, really. And at least sort of try and get to grips with the thing. But I don't suppose we will. But that's what I think the Conservative Party should be doing.
I ask, is the Religion of Peace website still banned on the parliamentary estates?
Yes, the Religion of Peace. Well, it was the last time I looked, the parliamentary estate. It's a very good question. You can't. I don't know whether you can get it. Peter's not there at the moment.
It was banned, and of course the parliamentary authorities made the excuse that this was part of the normal internet to protect the peers from any hit they may see. But it's one of the best websites in terms of listing all the attacks that come from Islam. And of course, Parliament doesn't want to talk about it. Not a single party wants to talk about it. And I've been blown away by the vitriol that Lord Pearson has faced whenever he has stood up in the chamber and just wanted to talk about Islam. You're not allowed. The Conservatives don't allow you. Labour don't allow you. Lib Dems don't allow you. Reform don't really allow you. There's literally no desire, because everyone knows that this is a death sentence. You don't do this. It's dangerous. I saw just on the side. I just saw a clip for a Jimmy Carr clip, the comedian, and he said, "Look, if you Christians want the same protections as Islam, then maybe you need to start blowing yourselves up." That was his joke. Literally, everyone knows the situation. The vast majority of MPs know about it, but they're just cowards to actually stand up and do anything. And when Lord Pearson talks about the madrasas, to keep it under that supplementary education level, which means we've no idea what happens to those children. Zero idea. And the government and not a single MP or political party is interested in protecting those children. They're Muslim children. No, they're not Muslim children. They're children who are living in a Muslim household, but they deserve the same protections and rights as any other citizen in the UK. And it's frustrating. I don't know if there's any hope in the party political system whenever you've got that level of cowardice. And then Baroness Cox, whenever she introduced her bill to protect women, Muslim women in marriages, the government kept taking it, the Conservative government, and then they dropped it. They did that, I think, 3 times. They took the bill and dropped it. They had no interest in protecting these women. So it's frustrating when you're in the chamber. You get to be part of those conversations. You get to hear that level of cowardice. And the government have promised they'll do things on many of these issues. And then as soon as they're able to, they make sure and bin it and bury it.
Could you speak a bit more about the Baroness Cox's bill? What was that sort of?
Well, she has a bill which gives our Muslim wives the protection of our civil law, because nearly all these women are married under Sharia law. A lot of them have come from Pakistan and can't really speak English. And under Sharia law, I think a man can have 4 wives. Each of whom are having at least 2 children. So, so the Muslim population is actually going up very, very much faster than ours. I think 10 times faster than ours is going up. I can't quite remember how, but it's in the memory that it is going up slowly. But the Muslim population is going up 10 times faster than ours. And, I think it's 10 English local authorities will be Muslim majority by 2031. And in the memo I gave you, it lists can local authorities. And when a local authority is majority Muslim and it elects a majority, a Muslim council, it's what they call rather worrying, I think.
What was Caroline Cox's?
Caroline Cox's bill.
It was actually called the Arbitration and Mediation Services. And
Yes.
You can see the many speeches she made in the House. And it was simply with all those women that are married, because, again, we allow a parallel legal system. We allow 85 Sharia courts to operate. They operate in those communities. We allow Islamic marriages to happen, but without any expectation for a civil ceremony for that to be legalized in the UK. Therefore, these women have zero protections because they're not married officially under British law. And in Islamic law, all the husband has says, I divorce you 3 times, and then they're out, they're abandoned, shame and honour culture. And the Baroness has tried this for maybe 12, 13 years, as I have seen. And every year she introduces it, every year to be thwarted by this is my frustration, and I come from the right, but a Conservative government who had met with her, the Home Office had met with her, they'd met with these victims, and in the end they didn't care. Literally, they didn't care. And this would give those Muslim women, it would turn those marriages into a official English marriage, and therefore they would have the laws in terms of child custody, in terms of finance, if there's any divorce in terms of that. Now they don't even get access to their children. And again, I can't get my head round the lack of desire to help those women, because we talk about Islamophobia. What about the hatred and position of Muslim women? Let's talk about those within the Muslim community. This is not just attacks to the outside. This is the suffering that happens within those communities. And you can imagine if a woman goes to a Sharia court, one of those 85 Sharia courts that we have passed off because it's easier, because we don't have the finance or we don't have the capacity in our own legal system, so we pass it over to others. Do you think she is going to get the right of English law? Of course not. She gets Islamic law, which means half or a quarter of the rights in a court. And if she's a rape victim, she needs to produce 4 witnesses to combat the man. It's diabolical. It really is. And I've been in so many meetings where MPs of every party nod along and yet don't do anything about it. And Baroness said to the government, take it. They took it and they dropped it, I think, 3 times.
Well, I think one can sort of understand members of the House of Commons who are nervous of anything critical of Islam, because so many seats in the Commons now actually are swung by the Muslim vote, especially now sort of inner cities and things like that. So I can sort of understand the Commons, but there's no excuse in the Lords. And as I say, Karen's had, I think, 2 second reading, and I've been banging on about it for some time. And I mean, the atmosphere in the chamber is really, I mean, I personally rather enjoy, in fact, very much enjoy being hated by Liberal Democrats. So, it's fun, and I'll go on doing. But it is quite worrying that that we're allowing Sharia law to run de facto in the United Kingdom via these 80 plus Muslim tribunals. I divorced you 3 times. The wife is divorced and orphan destitute. And then the Sharia law allows Muslim men to have 4 wives at a time. So it's most of whom are having at least 2 children. So that's why the Muslim population is going up 10 times faster than our national average. Well, teacher training, I think Chris Woodhead did a great job with that. I don't know how bad teacher training is at encouraging, well, for following Marxism, but it certainly was. And so I don't know where that's got, but in a way the damage is sort of done, because our teacher training has produced a whole generation of sort of Marxist teachers and things like that. And as I say, I can't remember the name of the what was he called? The Secretary of State who wanted to ban every blank grammar school in the land. I can't remember his name. But that was way back in the late 60s. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I think the Conservative Party should jolly well grip this thing and call a spade and get on with it.
But that's
I don't think they will.
Sorry, just one. I've just imagined how things could have been different in the country, Lord P. If Mark Thatcher had still been there, if you'd been involved in the teacher training, because that's the only way you win a country back, to actually capture the education and capture the teaching within the education. No one has any idea of how to try and turn the clock back and reclaim our education for a proper English proud education, and unless the work is going to be done into reclaiming the teacher training side, but the problem is that's not a 5-year term. That's a heck of a lot longer, and that's why most MPs won't touch it. But it would be a win-win for the Conservatives. Bring back grammar schools all across the country. I know the fight I have getting my kids in just recently, and the fight's all for grammar schools. Everyone wants to get to good school. The Conservatives have an opportunity to actually reclaim education in terms of grammar schools, in terms of teacher training. It's a win-win. It's simple.
No, that's that's right. But I don't know whether the Conservatives will grasp the nettle. We shall see.
You were leader of UKIP, weren't you? Well, for what years?
Briefly. I can't remember, for a year or two, something like that. Yes.
Where do you think they've gone, and what do you think their views are now?
I think my main object of the exercise in the whole of that sort of EU phase was to get a referendum on our EU membership, because I was pretty sure that if we got a referendum, we would win it. I was surprised we didn't win it by more when we actually got one. But that I think we did. And as a result, that the UK has left the EU. And the great thing about that is that it allows us once again to make our own laws, because the trouble with being in the European Union, I think there were 14,000 pieces of legislation while we were members of the EU, which I'm glad to say have all been stood down in one fell swoop since we left. And the way EU legislation was made was it was proposed in secret by the unelected European Commission. It then went into a shadowy body called COREPER, the Committee of Permanent Representatives, who had a sort of servile bureaucrat from each nation in it. And COREPER then, in secret, monitored these laws which were pouring out from the Commission. And then it went to the European Parliament, who didn't stop a single one of them. And it became law. And so we had all this law imposed on us by this corrupt octopus in Brussels, with nothing, our Parliament could do about it. And so coming out of the EU, at least has stopped all that. So now we do elect and dismiss those who make our laws. I mean, I'm not sure we're making a frightfully good job of it, but at least we can do it. And that, I think, was the main, and that was really why I joined UKIP and went into the whole Euro realist, we used to call it. And the man Starmer, I think, is tinkering now with setting up some form of new relationship with the EU. And that's all right, providing it's confined simply to trade and helps our trade. But if there's any sign of dragging us back into the tentacles of the corrupt octopus, a number of us, I hope, will be jumping up and down again. And again, the Lords was influential in this, because then I wasn't completely alone when I started saying we should get out of the damn thing. I mean, there was Lord Shaw, Peter Shaw, Stepney, Lord Belloff, and one or two others in the Lords. I mean, we did start the process of getting out. And I simply can't believe that Starmer will be foolish enough to be accused of taking us back in. But we shall see.
No, I remember. I kind of came on board working with Lord Pearson, probably understanding Islam more, and got up to speed on Europe. Then I was in UKIP 5 years, national campaign manager. I knocked on so many doors in that Leave campaign. I remember going over to the Parliament. Goodness, might have been like 2014. I think I went over. I think Gerard had brought, or went over in a group, and we got a tour. There were maybe 10 of us from the UK had gone over, and I remember getting a tour and being shown, and it was voting day, and the printers were wearing off, and there were like a stack, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sheets that were firing out. The assistants would be looking through them, trying to understand what the legislation was that they then had to go and vote on in 20 to 30 minutes. And it was chaos. And then you'd get down, no one was really sure what they were voting for, what it was. It was far too easy for some of the MEPs to vote the wrong way. And then when they announced, they would say those in favour, those against. And they had a button to press in the Parliament, but that wasn't pushed the vast majority of times. It was actually whoever was at the front was reading those for, those against, and he didn't even look up. It was a fait accompli. It was already automatically decided what was going to happen. And every time there was shouts from, especially from the UKIP MEPs are going the wrong way, then they would do a vote and they would press the button and it would come up on the big screen, yes and no. Every single time it went the other way, then they had just read it out. And you realize this is just a game. This is a show. None of this was real. I mean, I'm thinking if you're in the UK part, if you had a button to press and you could automatically vote, then surely it would be used. But they didn't even use it because it was too much bother to press that button and bring it up. So it was it was just a charade, the whole thing. And then the amount of money involved and some of the stories I heard, people behind the scenes, and I got offered a job working there as a researcher in the UK group. But after I heard so many stories, I thought that's the last place I want to be in Brussels. But also the flip side, back to the earlier conversation, Harry, it also is Brussels is 30% Islamic. And I thought there's no way I'm bringing up my family, my kids here in the Islamic center of Europe. And it shows how that kind of worked together, that Islam has got hold of the political capital of Europe. And you wonder why it's going to go wrong. And all the MEPs, they all stay around that parliamentary area, hugely expensive around that area. Then you go out in some of the suburbs, and I wouldn't tell you what I think of those suburbs. Let's just say they're not the safest places or nicest places, but the MEPs don't see that. So yeah, I've got lots of thoughts on the project, and it'll be interesting to see if either it collapses with populist parties all across Europe. I mean, the FPO are well ahead, the AfD are well ahead in Germany. It's fascinating to see that, and I think that could speed the collapse before we have Keir Starmer is not going to be around very long anyway, before he actually tries to negotiate a separate relationship to us, a closer deal. So yeah, we'll see.
On Lord Pearson's BBC page, it has a whole section that you invited Geert Wilders, is that his name?
Geert Wilders, yes.
Yeah. He's much more popular now, I think, than he was when you invited him. Do you think you'd have the same
Yes, he came out top in the recent Dutch elections, but he didn't get enough to under their system to form a government on his own. So I think he's alongside or joined up or collaborating with the present Dutch government. But he's a very good man and a great expert on Islam, incidentally.
Malcolm, we toured in Miami with Geert Wilders because he wasn't allowed to go, and he asked Malcolm to go in his stead to give speeches to the Jewish community in Mar-a-Lago and other places. And in the end, he went as well. So Malcolm and both him and Malcolm went together to America, and then you went up to Washington to give. But then they were, much more acceptance of that kind of than here in the UK.
Yes, it was really Geert who woke me up to the whole Muslim problem, I think, when he...
And the film Fitna that he produced.
One can look at his film Fitna, F-I-T-N-A, which I think means struggle. Yeah. He made a little film. It's very good, well worth a look even now. You can Google it, Fitna.
Yeah.
And at least I think it's still there.
Is that banned on the Parliamentary estate?
I think it is, yes. Yes, I don't know. It's a good point. Peter, what we should do is maybe put down a question or two as to where we stand with this banning on the Parliamentary estate. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, I agree. Because we played, it was 2009 or 2010, wasn't it? We played Fitna in that beside Fielding House in what used to be the media room.
Yes.
I remember we had a large group were there, and I remember being there. And then I was asked to press the button. I thought, what? I don't want to press the button. Okay, I'll press it. That was my heroic action.
Fitness, it was really that of Geert that sort of woke me up to the thing. Also because he was coming over to give a talk, and he was banned by the Home Secretary, who was a pathetic little woman called, I can't quite remember.
Jackie Smith.
Jackie Smith. Yeah. Jackie Smith banned him from coming, and he arrived in these shores and had to go back to Holland. But I went to court, and the Home Office cracked, and so he turned around again and came back and did get in. So absolutely absurd. This was a Dutch MP who was banned by Jackie Smith from coming to this country because he would not have been conducive to the public good. Can you believe? Pathetic little woman. Anyway,
but that was the big, Lord P, that was the big story of the day. I remember Sky News following the plane as it landed in Heathrow, and the plane was just full of journalists because they were all there, and then they were all turned round. But it was the main story. Remember on Sky News, as they were following the plane as it landed. It was like a presidential aircraft coming in, and it was Geert with 150 journalists, and he wasn't allowed in.
Yeah, well, we got him in the second time over.
And you sent his book out. His book was published in secret in America and then brought to this country. And you sent it to every member of the House of Parliament as a Christmas present.
Yes, I did. What was it called, the book?
Oh, gosh.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
And it was Geert's. It was, what was it called? Yeah, no, it was very expensive.
Something to do with death. Was it? Anyway.
Marked for Death.
Marked for Death, that's it.
Islam's War Against the West and Me. That's the title.
That's right. Because he was marked for death.
Yeah, he had to go into hiding.
I'm not sure is he free now? He lived in a bunker in an airport for years because the Muslims threatened to kill him. And his colleague, what was he called?
Theo
something, what was he called?
Yeah.
Anyway, they murdered him. But I don't know whether Geert is still living in a bunker or not.
I saw him because I was speaking with him in January, and he had to send a team of 6 people a week before to scout out the whole area, to check it out, to approve everything. When we went in, there were metal detectors. Everyone had to get checked. You had to show ID. So it was full-on security, and Geert had a team around him at all times. And he couldn't stay for anywhere more than, I think, 2 nights. So he spoke in Dallas, but he couldn't stay in Dallas because it hadn't been fully secured. So he had to fly in and fly out. So he's the religion of peace still are after him.
Yes, the religion of peace, yes.
Do you think it would be more acceptable to bring him back to England today?
Yes, I imagine one would, he'd need all this protection and everything with him. And I think he is living in a sort of underground bunker in an airport in Holland. I think he still is. Very, very good man.
But sorry, one other thing. When two of the times he tried to come over to the UK and couldn't, the reason was because the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who obviously is probably not his favourite person, Sadiq Khan refused permission for Geert to bring over his security detail, armed security detail, and therefore he would have been unarmed. And because of that, he was not able to come. So Sadiq Khan made sure that the Met Police refused his security detail on 2 occasions, which stopped him coming for a whole range of meetings. So it's not just Parliament, it's actually the police force that you're coming, and Sadiq Khan, of course,
controls
that.
Well, it's that awful little Sadiq Khan man, isn't it?
He is awful.
Yeah. I think it's the Muslim vote, I'm afraid. He's never really been very brave on Islam, and I mean, he didn't really want me to get involved in the way I did. And I mean, it isn't to say Nigel's much of a Christian. He probably is a sort of mild. I don't know whether he goes to church or not or whatever. But no, it's just a question of votes, really, I'm afraid. And that's, as I say.
And also, Zia Yusuf is very controlling in the who's Muslim in the Reform Party. Zia Yusuf has 50% of shares of the Reform. That's the reason why Ben Habib left Reform, the way it's set up. And Zia Yusuf and Nigel have total control of the party.
Yeah, they own it.
They own it. And I think that hasn't changed. And I've spoken to members of Reform about this. I said, aren't you worried? And they don't seem to accept that. I mean, that is the reason why Ben had a row with Nigel over the structure of Reform.
Yes.
That it's not democratic.
Yeah. But Ben Habib is a really good man.
Yeah.
And I mean, I declare an interest. He's a personal friend and all that. But I think he's one to watch for the future. On the right of British politics. Really.
He is on the right of British politics, and he wants to influence parties to go further right than they are going. Yeah. I mean, Reform is in kind of in the middle. But Ben...
What's Ben's party called?
Advance
UK, that's right.
Yeah, and then there's Rupert Lowe's as well.
And
Rupert has got quite a lot of followers, and he's probably got Elon Musk behind him. So he's got some money there. And his policy was the grooming gangs. Like, he did a fundraiser on getting the grooming gangs sorted. But I don't know about Rupert anyway.
No, I think he's a very good man.
Wow.
And Ben, certainly, and he's very articulate. And he's good. He's called Habib. So he's sort of... And his father was Pakistani.
I think Rupert would be persuaded to go back to the Conservative Party, but Ben certainly won't.
No, I don't know.
I think Rupert was keen maybe to lead the Conservative Party, but I don't know how that would work.
Well, Rupert's a very good man. I mean, there are a lot of really good people on our end of the spectrum, as it were,
but they're wanting the Conservative Party to go slightly right and not further left.
Yes.
And I think Harry, migration and teacher education is key in all this.
Oh.
Immigration is controlling our borders, which neither the Conservative Party, I mean, Boris left in over 1 million migrants on his term. And, I mean, the Conservative Party are guilty, as equally guilty as the Labour Party on this migration problem.
Yes.
And I think they've got to acknowledge that. And that's why people don't trust the Conservative Party.
Mm. What was it, Andrew Green's thing? It was called Migration Watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, Andrew Green.
Lord Green is now.
He started migration watch.
Yes, and has actually started monitoring, how many people we were letting in, and it was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
And he said, I mean, we could all agree to let in, a certain number of people a year, but where you've got to be careful is when they come in for permanent residence. That's what you've got to be careful of. But we've got to allow people to come and go, providing they go if we don't want them. Quite a few, one or two have come up to me and said, we're right behind you, we're right with you. But you do understand, in my position as, I don't know, Archbishop of Canterbury, one of them was, I can't remember who. In my position, I can't really say anything. Quite a few have said that.
There was Lord Poppet.
Yes, Poppet's a good man.
Who's Hindi.
He's Hindi. He's on side, and he's been public about it. But he's the only one. He hasn't spoken.
He hasn't spoken.
No, he's a good man. But as I say, Archbishop Canterbury was one, and quite a few. We're right behind you, but you do understand. I say, well, sometimes it feels as though you're an awful long way behind. But one's just got to keep buggering on, as Churchill said. I think that's all we can do.
But no one is. I mean, there's some good people like Toby Young in the Lords or Dean Goodson, or there's some good people that've gone in, but no one is willing.
Is new, yes. I mean, he's good.
He's my Lord Acton where I am, so he's my local Lord. But but none of them have been willing to run with this. And I had expected, watching Lord Pearson speaking this year in, year out, watching privately those conversations of private support, but never public. And I thought that actually a number of the Lords would have then begun to speak, but zero. I mean, Lord Pearson and Baroness Cox literally have been the only voices in the whole of the Lords on this issue. And even the good ones who've come on, they're very skittish on Islam, very skittish.
Well, Peter, perhaps we should try another debate before too long.
Absolutely. Can we bring Geert over for it as well?
What?
Can we bring Geert over?
Well, he wouldn't be allowed to speak if we had it in the Lords. The great thing in the Lords is that you speak under privilege.
Yes.
And they can't. They can't.
And Nick Timothy in the Commons, he is a good chap. He does actually speak out, and he's one of the few in the House of Commons, Nick Timothy, who's conservative, Harry, and
he's very good.
He does speak out on the problems of Islam and thing. He's brave enough to do that. Yes, exactly, and he is quite a good chap, Nick Timothy. He does. Yeah, he does.
But Peter, I think we've agreed we've got to follow up the latest ridiculous answer from Lord Khan of Burnley. Haven't we? We've got to put down some more written questions on this whole thing, haven't we? Particularly about the ridiculous group they've set up, which I think consists entirely of Muslims.
No, Dominic Grieve.
Oh, Dominic. Well, he's the chairman.
He's the chairman.
Yeah, he's good, but he's weak. We shall see.
Well, he's the one who's put it through. He was on a podcast today on the Telegraph with Camilla Tominey and Tim Stanley.
He's a very, very good man.
Dominic Grieve defending his act on Islamophobia that he set up with all these Muslims. He said it would protect people rather than, but Camilla and Tim tore him apart, I think.
Oh, good. Great.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think.
How often are you in Westminster?
Sorry?
How often are you in Westminster?
Not a lot these days. I was there the week before last. Was it last week? Week before last.
Yeah.
I go down occasionally, but as most of my activities, written questions for written answer, I don't really need to be in the chamber. Do you see what I mean? Because they're the most effective thing. You can keep the pressure on the government, and they hate them, of course. So that's why I still putting down quite a few QWAs, they're called, and I've got to regroup with Peter a bit, and we've got to put down a few more, I think, Peter, don't you?
Yeah, but you were down every weekend. The Parliament sat really up until COVID.
Yeah,
So every down for Mondays and then back up Thursday.
yeah,
So
yes.
you
But
were up and down.
that was my regular thing. But I
Yep.
haven't done that recently, have I? I don't think.
No.
No.
I've been. Well, I'm 83, you know, getting old, and I find the train quite tiring, the night sleeper. And you know, if you can make enough trouble without actually having to go there. But I was there last week, I think. Well, I'll probably go again soon, just to make sure the thing is there. And then in the Lords, of course, we've got the problem. I think they probably dropped it. They wanted to kick everyone out over the age of 80. I don't know if you saw that recently. And I made it clear that I'm 83, so I couldn't afford that. And anyway, it was clearly age discrimination. And I took legal advice. It was absolutely clearly age discrimination. And I think they've dropped it. But I wouldn't put it past them, because age discrimination, I'm glad to say, is illegal. And you will find it helpful too if we can keep it as you get older. Actually, the Labour Party suddenly realised that they wanted to put in. They had a number of peers over the age of 80, which they hadn't thought about, and they wanted to put in some more who would very soon be over the age of. So the Labour Party sort of quietly pushed it to one side, I think, which is good, because it is age discrimination, which I'm all against, obviously. The Lords is quite a Europhile place. And I think there will be support in the Lords for this reset, which Starmer is talking about. And I don't think it matters if there's a reset, providing it promotes trade and isn't the first step on sneaking us back into the damn thing. I think that would be very unpopular with the country, actually. And I don't think even Starmer and his dreadful crew will dare to try and drag us in through the back. We're silent on that, really. I thought they were going to be much more, this is Brexit's fault, that is Brexit's fault, because the stuff they've mentioned is clearly nonsense, really. And anyway, it's been to our advantage. I think leaving the EU was good, really. And
I actually think it's all up for grabs with after the Gorton and Denton by-election with that 30% Muslim vote with the Greens getting in. And I think then all bets are off, because Reform thought they had the local elections sewn up in May. But now, suddenly, you could have the Greens could take that and Reform don't get it their own way. And if the Greens, especially, and then Labour come in as well, if they do well, then there could be a big voice from the radical Greens to actually push for that. So that's my concern after the Gorton and Denton. Well, after the Gorton and Denton by-election, I mean, the Greens are crazy in policy. They're so much off the scale on everything. So I think there could be a push if they do well in the local elections.
But I don't think we can be taken back in without a referendum. I would be surprised. I don't know. In which case we'll have to fight it, and once again we'll win it. I mean, British people aren't idiots; they're rather clever, cleverer than their politicians on the whole. But I reply to that you know, Islamophobia is itself a silly word, because it isn't phobic or unreasonable to fear the modern world's most violent religious ideology, which is Islam. No argument. So, and all I've been saying about Islamophobia for some time, years, in fact, is can we discuss it? Can we talk about Islam? And I did a memo on that sometime. I sent you the memo, I think, and that's all pretty well accurate. I don't know. I don't think, as I say, the government at the tail end. Yes. Another thing we could do is to license imams before they can teach. The Church of England does that, I understand. So before imams can go and preach, we could arrange a licensing system for them. As I say, monitor the mosques and madrasas, of course, and Another thing we should do is ban the burqa in public. Several other European countries have done it, some of whom are a Muslim majority, I think. So banning the burqa would be a good thing. And I think it'd be very popular. And the wretched women don't like wearing it anyway, poor things. I mean, they can go and wear it at home if they want to. I mean, a Scotsman can stand on his head in a kilt if he wants to at home. Doesn't matter. But I think banning the burqa would be an excellent policy.
Do you think many agree with you in the Lords about that, or?
I doubt it. There might be a few on that, but normally I'm a sort of minority of one in the Lords nowadays. There were some good people, but David Stoddart, Lord Stoddart of Swindon, and there were Max Beloff. Lord Beloff was really good. There were some excellent ones, and I'm sure there are some good ones now, but not on this subject really. I mean, I think the Lords, on the whole, is useful, especially if it can keep its hereditary element. And I speak as I'm not an hereditary, but they are valuable. And also, as I think I said earlier, because they don't have to climb the greasy pole. And quite frankly, if you want to get rid of the hereditary peers, what about the monarchy? What about the king, who's justly very popular? But how can you have a hereditary king, a monarch, and not have and get rid of the hereditary principle lower down the social chain? That's the question I ask them, and they don't like it. They can't answer it because the king is very popular, and quite rightly so. Works jolly hard. They all do. And Prince William and the wonderful Kate. I mean, they're absolute stars, all of them. And I don't know how they do it. We're very, very lucky to have them. If you want to feel exhausted, read the Times Court Circular and see what the royal family has been up to the day before. I mean, I don't know how they keep. Princess Anne is a star, of course. So that's a really good thing. We're very, very lucky to have them. And it looks as though Prince William and the wonderful Kate are going to do pretty well, when their turn comes. But the country wouldn't agree with them. I don't think. I think that's in really good hands at the moment. And as I say, if you want to see what they do, the Times Court Circular is very, very good every day. And if I want to feel exhausted, I just read what they've been up to the day before. Absolutely, non-stop. God save the king. Oh, yes, I hope so. But to do that, you need Thatcherite policies, which the country still agree with, really. Don't you think? I mean, she really did turn things around. She was very brave. I don't see why not. But the Conservative Party have got to be a Conservative Party. It's useless them shilly-shallying around in the middle ground. And as I say, I think Ben Habib is very good. It'd be great if they could get him, but I don't know. I rather doubt it. And then you've got Nigel, of course, and Nigel and Ben don't get on, unfortunately. Which I tell them that they're like squabbling children in the nursery, but it doesn't seem to have much effect. And thank God I'm non-aligned, so I don't. I'm free to be rude about it without suffering any great penalties or something. I'm going to stay non-aligned. It's called too, which means independent, I think.
But with the Conservatives getting 2% at a by-election, I think the writing's on the wall. I don't think you can come back from the position and the polling, how it looks at the moment, the even worse situation. I remember I used to see Kemi whenever I worked in City Hall, whenever she was assembly member. I was very impressed with her. I thought she was good. But she was dropped into one of the safest seats and hasn't performed at all. And then you look at the experience in the Lords of many of the older peers, what the experience they bring to the country, and then you look at some of the MPs and you think, wow, does democracy give us this level? I mean, you saw the Green one giving her speech. She looked like she was from the Teletubbies or just auditioning for some children's TV program. It's embarrassing. And then we've got these brilliant people in the Lords that actually we're trying to get rid of. Yes, I don't know how the Conservative Party can come back from a 2% at a by-election, losing their deposit.
So what do you think will happen at the next election? Because there's got to be one fairly soon, is it? When is the next election?
It'll be 2029. It's not going to be sooner. Labour have got too big a majority. Yeah, 29. So Keir Starmer is going to be shifted out for someone probably even worse. We have to carry on. The Greens, if they continue rising up and working on the bloc Muslim vote, and then it's going to be all bets are off possibly for 2029. It's no longer Nigel's to win. Actually, there are a lot of other factors in play. And Nigel's been afraid of the Muslim vote, has trying to be nice to them, but he'll have to come down one side or the other on whether he wants Islamization of the UK or not. But yeah, I think we're going to muddle along with an inept Labour government for years.
So when is the next election? When has it got to be by?
I don't know, 3 years, but don't know when the exact date is.
Yeah, I see. Another 3 years of this lot.
Yeah.
Oh, well. No, Nigel is very, very good. I mean, he's a brilliant politician and all that. And he was really essential in the business of getting out of the European Union, which is the most important thing we've done recently, because we can now elect and dismiss those who make our laws, as I've said, which when you're a member of the European Union, you can't, because your laws are made by the bureaucracy in Brussels. And and 14,000, I think, is the figure of laws or pieces of legislation which were forced on us by Brussels when we were members of the European Union. And the whole lot have been cancelled in one act, which is really good. And then we've gone back and picked up ones we want to keep, which is fair enough. So I can't remember what that act was called. It's got a rather boring name, the bill. Anyway, it went through. And, I mean, that's the most important thing, is that really that the British people can elect and dismiss those who make their laws. So that is democracy. And under the EU, under Brussels, we lost it. And the EU was, I mean, it's founded, don't forget, it's founded on a lie, which is that the EU has kept the peace since whenever it is, 45, I think they say, at the end of the war. The EU has kept, well, the EU wasn't concocted and born until 1957. And but they're completely blind to it. And the EU so-called Parliament, which is more or less elected, I think what it is, I mean, it can't disagree with something that the unelected bureaucracy of the Commission says. When the Commission says something, that's what happens. Anyway, we're out of the damn thing, so I don't think we need bother about it anymore.
I did. I was chairman of my UKIP branch in West London, and I had shown two of the assembly members, David Curtin and Peter Whittle, around my area that was a mass redevelopment, and they got in and they asked me in for a cup of tea and said, "Would like you working in City Hall." So I was working with Lord Pearson. So I worked there part-time as a senior researcher for 2.5 years with Peter and David. So it was fantastic insight into working at local government and the waste, the bureaucracy, the huge reports that no one reads, the irrelevance of it all. That was all curious. And actually, I was blocked from joining because of my work on Islam. And I had to talk to the diversity and equality officer and plead my case and said, I'm not an evil individual, that I love Muslims, but I hate Islam as an ideology. So I had a 50-minute conversation, and I had to plead my case. And then he said, well, if you put that in an email, we'll reconsider your position. That was awful good of them. So I got in eventually. But it shows how you're not allowed to have a differing opinion. And again, it's this confusion that we have between Islamophobia, anti-British, anti-Muslimness, and what that means, and whether you're allowed to critique or any ideology you wish. I mean, no one said it was wrong to critique communism. There was no phobia in that. Surely you're allowed to critique communism without saying you hate everyone who lives in a communist country. It's the same for Islam. You can critique Islam without actually looking badly on those who follow that ideology, because just like communism, many Muslims are not able to change. So it's common sense. But yeah, interesting. I had to be on my best behavior in City Hall, and numerous times had to hold my tongue. But it was fascinating seeing how it worked. And Kemi was there. I watched her from afar. I think I only met her once. But seeing Sadiq Khan ignore questions, members asking serious questions, and Sadiq Khan just mocking them. And it was like a little game that he played for Mayor's Question Time. Much less interesting than PMQs. Hell of a lot interesting.
Communism, I think, was a world domination movement, obviously, as is Islamism. But we managed to get rid of that because in 1983, Alexander Solzhenitsyn was over here, and I got him to see Margaret Thatcher. And she explained the way to bring down communism, Soviet communism, this is, was, given their mentality, was to up tremendously the Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars. And she persuaded Reagan, and both Reagan and Margaret increased our spending on the Strategic Defense Initiative, having been told that the Soviets would not be able to tolerate this and would spend as much money to stay level with us, and that would eventually bankrupt the Soviet Union. And that is what happened. It did take 6 years before the wall came down, but Margaret grasped it immediately from Alexander Tsarevich and told Reagan, and Reagan got it. And between them, they jolly well did it. And it's a tremendous achievement, really, to have got rid of Soviet communism, which was a real threat. So that's how that one happened, really. As I say, and Solzhenitsyn, he came over here in 1983, and I took him to see the great lady. And he really knew his onions. Very, very great man.
I was just thinking about your written questions. It would be great for you to write one, requesting every single banned website on the Parliamentary estate.
Every single what?
Every single banned website in the Parliamentary estate.
Yes, that is a government. Peter, we could do that.
We could do that. Yeah.
We need to. Shall we make a note of that?
Yeah.
We'll have to sweat blood on the wording of these things, because you have to frame them in a way that it's the government's responsibility, and I think it has to be the government's responsibility, and B, you have to know what they want to answer, so you have to make it as difficult as possible because they always want to get out of it. But I think we should ask what's the form with what is it? The parliamentary TV or recording on the parliamentary stage.
No, you can find out what are blocked, because they say it will be a third party. They said that religion of peace was classed under hate and violence, and therefore it wasn't allowed. And they say, "Oh, this is only our internet provider. It's not us." But we can ask them. That would be a simple question, Harry, a straightforward